All right, hello and welcome, fight fans. Welcome into another edition of the Undercard. Today we're going to be talking about UFC 246 and the chaos that ensued. My early thoughts right off the bat that I was a little bit heartbroken about the Donald Cerrone. I was really hoping that Cowboy was going to starch Conor McGregor. But as you all are aware now, it did not happen. Conor McGregor was able to utilize an amazing clinch game and work Cerrone over pretty good. About like 15 seconds into that fight, he started landing some nasty elbow shots to Cerrone's face, and you could almost tell right away that he was in trouble as soon as the clinch was gone and they were done. You could see the bubbling in his eye, right? Broken nose right off the bat. Not much you can do. Kind of reminds me of, forget who Cerrone fought maybe 2 or 3 fights ago. But he ended up blowing out his nose, right? And then it just puffed up his eyes, right? So, tough loss. I almost half expected Cerrone to retire after the fight, but good on him. He still wants to fight, still keep getting after it, and proud to see that. Unfortunately, now I think Cerrone's at that. He's at that point in his career where he's going to be a gatekeeper. He's still going to be a tough fucking fight, and he's still going to fuck up a lot of goddamn people. But, there's levels to this shit, and anytime that he's gone up against the upper echelon of the fighters, unfortunately, Cowboy has struggled. But, as the name suggests, he's a cowboy. He's going to get back up on that horse and give her another go. As for Conor McGregor, tremendous display of striking power. Obviously, he's keeping on adding more arsenals into his tool set. This fight really didn't. Well, this fight really didn't show much of what Conor has progressed in the ground game, if anything, which I'm assuming that we're going to be leading into Nurmagomedov rematch. However, there has been a few things speculating around that we're going to see a McGregor-Mayweather fight coming up. I don't know if anybody saw what was leaked on the internet, but it looked like a fight card promotion between McGregor and Floyd. Hopefully it was just some garbage, but you never know, right? We kind of were all expecting Conor after this victory to call out Jorge Masvidal, and that didn't happen. I guess he did call out the whole division, but I think a good 90% of us were definitely thinking that we were going to get that Jorge Masvidal fight, but Dana White has recently been seen with Floyd Mayweather, at a few events. They've been rubbing elbows. They've got some sort of deal in the mix, and this is probably it. We're probably going to see Conor go fight McGregor before we see any more MMA fights, which, in my opinion, kind of hurts his stock. But, as for the bank-wise, definitely doesn't hurt his stock at all, right? But as an MMA fighter, hopefully he's not going to go and chase Floyd again. We would really like to see him back in the ring. We've got some things that need to be answered. I personally like to go and see McGregor fight Nate Diaz. I want to see the trilogy. I want to see Nate beat the shit out of him for a third time. Yes, that's right, folks. I said it, a third time. In my opinion, Nate won that both fights, but they're trying to set up the mega fight. So I get that, I'm a little less interested in this Jorge Masvidal fight. Quite frankly, I want to see Jorge fight against Kamaru Usman. I think that's the fight in the 170-pound division. And, I definitely don't want to see... I don't want to see Conor chasing Floyd, but I'm starting to think more and more that is a reality. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. This fight card had, from start to finish, had some good fights on it. One of my favorite fights of the night was the first fight, actually, in the And like the early prelims, we got to see women's featherweight action, Sabina Mazo versus JJ Aldrich. And this was a very back and forth fight. JJ has got some great boxing fucking skills. She comes out of a good camp with, Pat Barry, and Pat Barry, right? He's got Rose Namajunas, right? And they've got a good little stable of women over there, some tough scrappers. JJ's got some tremendous boxing skills. She's very fast. She did run into a few problems with Mazo's clinch game, but in my opinion, I thought JJ had won the first 2 rounds. I had it actually 29-28 for JJ. However, I think the judges were, you all know how it is at this point, right? When you finish a round strong, it's going to leave a lasting impression on the judge's eyes, right? And I can kind of see why Mazo ended up getting the decision. Like I said, though, this was a very fun scrap. The two of them, at one point it looked like JJ was just completely dominating Mazo, and then Mazo finally found the range and was able to clinch in with JJ and just really start doing some damage to JJ. I think both these ladies ended up with a busted nose. I know they were both cut. Not a ton of blood flowing, just a little trickle of blood, right? So you know that they were swapping some paint, and very fun night, Actually, I think I crushed like 2 beers watching this. I was so excited watching this fight. Like I said, it was one of the better fights, and I would love to see both these two women fight real soon, top level competition. And, what I would like to see from JJ is a little bit working on that clinch game. And what I want to see from Mazo is her coming out of the gates fast. It seemed like she kind of like had a feeler out round in the first round, and then towards the second round, she finally like woke up, and then in the third round, she actually came out, and you could kind of see that there was a little bit of desperation in her. Well, not desperation, but urgency. She like I said, I thought she had lost the first 2 rounds, and then she needed pretty much the knockout for the win, but I was wrong. Judges had this 29-28 for Mazo, split decision. Another one of these fights that kind of got a little bit away from the fighter, I think, and then got left to the judges. And I thought, in my opinion, should have gone the other way. However, we all know in the fight game that you just can't leave it to the judges, right? You sometimes just got to, you got to razzle and dazzle the judges, right? Unfortunately, you can't take no time off, right? Even though you win like the first of the round, you got to go and finish strong and close out, right? And with these rounds being 5 minutes each, it's very easy for the judges to forget about the first 3 minutes of work, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Sometimes in that case, it's easy for the judges to forget about the first 4 minutes of work and only focus on the last minute. The second fight in the early prelims was against Alexei Cormier versus Justin Ledet. In my opinion, Ledet was fighting a very good game. He was never in no real danger. He had stunned Cormier a few times. I'm just going to call him Alexei because I'm butchering his last name. Alexei's a young kid, though. He's been kind of on a tear. His last 5 fights, he's had KO victories. He's a kid that's fighting out of Stipe Miocic's camp. So he's in there with some big boys. I think what we saw was just a young kid that was, finally fighting in the big stage, and he came out and was throwing some really big, aggressive wheelhouse kicks and just, was shooting. Well, not that he was shooting, but every shot that he had thrown was just with so much power that it seemed like he had busted his fucking gas load in the first round, but he still came out in the second round strong and came out in the third round strong, you know what I mean? So clearly the kid's got a massive gas tank, you know what I mean? We'll see how long he's able to keep, you know what I mean, that type of performance up, as he gets older. But I'm sure as with all fighters, you know what I mean, you just got to get that one out of the way, feel more comfortable, and then he'll probably fight a much more intelligent fight and not gas himself out, be a lot more selective with his punches. And that's what his opponent was doing. Justin Ledet was very calm in the pocket. He was moving and slipping well. He was working behind a jab. And like I said, in my opinion, I had him winning the first 2 rounds. I had Alexei winning the last round. I honestly had this fight 28-29, but the judges, they were all in favor of this kid. I was surprised, right? I think we had 2 judges 30-27 and one judge 28 or 29-28, right? So I was a little bit floored to see that. I didn't like the judging, to be honest, at that point. And when you can start to see kind of judges, it makes you kind of like wonder what we're in store for the rest of the card, right? You know what I mean? At that point, like, you're thinking, God, I hope none of these fights go to the decision. I hope these fights go quick. Somebody gets a knockout, somebody gets a submission, right? It's always one of those things. You just can't leave it to the judges to decide your fate, right? And you could see it on the face of Ledet after the fight, you know what I mean? That, like, he did not win. I was just as surprised as he was. Like I said, I thought he had done enough damage in the first 2 rounds. He was connecting. He was able to defend himself against the takedown. However, I think maybe towards what really got him in trouble was that towards the end of the another thing about it, towards the end of the first and the second round, he ended up kind of like cage grinding him a little bit, and Ledet was in no trouble on the cage grind, but he didn't show no urgency to get out of the cage grind, right? So maybe the referee saw that was, as you know what I mean, scored some big points on control there. I'm not exactly too sure how they saw it, but needless to say, it was a little upsetting. I can't believe that 2 of the judges had it such a lopsided fight. You know what I mean? It should have been a lot closer. I don't think Lexi won any of those 3 rounds, and I don't know anybody else who would have scored it like that, to be honest with you. But c'est la vie, that's the way it goes, right? And fortunately enough for this next fight in the prelim cards, we had a quick, vicious knockout, and this was I was expecting this to be a little bit of a barn burner, you know what I mean? There was always the possibility of a quick, early knockout, but Nasrat Haskrat, or Hakpreet, Nasrat versus Drew Dober. This ended in a first-round KO, vicious KO. Drew Dober actually came into this with not great Vegas odds. I know he's got a record of 22-9. You know what I mean? Nasrat's like 11-3. Well, 11-2. Now he's 11-3. But Nasrat, I believe, was on a roll coming into this, right? I think he was like on a 5-fight win streak, and I was kind of shocked to see it all go down the way it did. But can't be sleeping on Drew Dober. Drew Dober is a fucking machine. I believe he is he's a high-level kickboxer, right? So, I mean, if you're wanting to stand there and trade with Drew, good luck. There's probably a good chance that you're going to go to sleep. What I saw from Drew was great patience in the pocket, right? Very calm in the pocket, and just so fast. For lightweight, he's a big, massive boy. He's fit and he's solid, and looking for great things from him in the future. As for Naz, he's going to go back, refocus, and dust this L off, and he'll get back into it. I mean, that had to be, in my opinion, that had to be kind of like the knockout of the night, right? I didn't go and see exactly who won the best fight and knockout of the night. We'll have to do that in a bit here. But another good fight that was that went to another decision here. This time the refs got it right. Was fucking Tim Elliott versus Askar Askarov. And this one almost ended like in the first round too. Oh my god, this was a very entertaining fight. Tim Elliott is a very unorthodox fighter. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like an almost a Michael Venom Page. You know what I mean? Maybe not that high level of a skill, but the way he presents angles and comes at you, he's a very interesting fighter. However, Askar Askarov, what a beast this guy is. Cardio fucking king. The word on him is that he runs like an hour a day, every day. You know what I mean? Takes no days off. Kid is a beast. He's got a stellar record. He's now 11-0-1. And the things that I noticed in this fight was that Elliott was unable to hold Askarov to the ground. Elliott was able to take Askarov to the ground almost seemingly at will. But Askarov was always able to pop back up. Now, the one thing that confused me about this fight, though, was like 30 seconds in, maybe about a minute in, Askarov had stunned Tim Elliott. And it looked like Tim Elliott was going to go night-night. Literally standing there. He was on his feet, knocked out. I don't think anyone's going to tell you that he wasn't knocked out. He was knocked out on his feet. For whatever reason, well, Askarov came in. Elliott was able to snap out of it a little bit and take it to the ground right away. And at that point, I would have thought that Askarov would have tried to get back to his feet and try and look for the knockout victory. Unfortunately, they were playing this chess match on the ground game. Elliott was able to hold him down for the first round pretty much and really recover. You know what I mean? Which is a great game plan by Elliott. Second round, Elliott definitely came out and was starting to put in work. He, like I said, he was able to take Askarov to the ground. They were swapping positions back and forth, you know what I mean? Attacking, Elliott's a very accomplished ground fighter. But I thought that Askarov should have used his jiu-jitsu to get back up to his feet so that he could continue to strike with Elliott. At no point did it seem that, like, while they were striking, that Elliott was the superior striker at all. Askar Askarov is just so quick, tiny little dude, but very, very powerful looking guy for his frame, right? They're I think 125ers, right? You know what I mean? And just, he looks solid at 125. However, in the third round, Elliott looked like he was gassed. He was starting to get frustrated with Askar Askarov. He was fighting more so with his hands down, which I don't like to see, you know what I mean? It kind of felt like, well, you could just tell that he was very frustrated with Askar, right? Askar was, you know what I mean, fighting great behind the counter punching, you know what I mean? And you could just tell that Elliott was just definitely frustrated. And unfortunately, I think I really don't know if Elliott gassed out or if it was just the frustrations that kind of took over at that point. Because, like I says, he just looked, he was dead in the third round, you know what I mean? He had enough fucking energy to jaw jack and kind of come at him, but, I think maybe that frustration kicked in and he just really had no answers, and it was a little disappointing the way this fight kind of went down. You got to see two excellent rounds, and then that third round was just kind of meh, but that's why Askar took that fight easily. I don't think anyone's going to say that Elliott should have won that at all, especially after almost getting KO'd. Elliott's lucky to have gone the whole 15 minutes. Another hell of a fight. This one could have been also fight of the night. Was in the featherweight division. We had Sadiq Youssef versus Andre File. And, wow, the first thing you notice is that Sadiq is just so massive for the featherweight division, he's a real big fucking boy, and I thought maybe that, he had a chance of, gassing out in this fight, and that Andre File was going to capitalize on that, but Sadiq had a stellar performance, he's so strong, he's just a massive dude, he's got some great boxing skills, some great takedown defense, he's got some good ground game, was able to pop back up. Andre File, hell of a fighter. I'm going to be honest. I didn't know much about him, but he's got a stellar record himself, sitting at 20-7. He's got a good frame for the featherweight division. Lost the first 2 rounds, but in that third round, he switched up to southpaw and was able to really start using effective strikes, and fighting well behind the jab, but it's one of those things. It was a little too late. Very entertaining first round. A lot of these guys went back and forth with the attacks. File looked like he was in trouble. He was able to finish that round somewhat strong. You know what I mean? And very tilted. A very good tilt between these two fighters. Sometimes when you see a fight like this, I'm curious. You know what I mean? Because it looked like Sadiq was starting to gas, and I know it's always been a thing that it's like, they fight 15 minutes and that's it, and then once we get to the championship level, it's 25 minutes, but even at a 25-minute battle, you know what I mean, for a championship, we're still not at the minutes that boxing is at, right? Because I think, it's like 40 minutes that they fight in boxing, if not more than that, and, there's questions, right, because the weight cut is such a big factor, that it allows for these guys to come in, in these lighter divisions. And you almost wonder if Sadiq needs to move up a little bit. But at the same time, the dude's got an 11-1 record, right? So who are we to say, However, I think once he starts getting into those championship fights, eventually in his career, I think he's going to possibly have some problems. He looked a little bit gassed in that third round, and like I said, had this been a 5-round fight between File and Sadiq, I think File would have gotten the better of him. Andre did take some damage, but no real significant damage from Sadiq, right? He was did he come on strong in that third round, and just, another close one, right, and thank God the judges were a little bit better, and, gave the proper one to Sadiq, but like I said, it makes me wonder, had they gone another 10 more minutes, would Sadiq have won that, you know what I mean, would have gone to a decision, right, and that's something I'd like to see the UFC change in the future, you know what I mean, I would almost like to see, an implementation of the old Bushido Pride rules. A first round of 10 minutes, and then maybe 3 5-minute rounds after that, or maybe even better yet, 2 10-minute rounds followed by a 5th round. That's what I would ultimately like to see, but I'm kind of crazy. Who knows? Excuse me. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't catch most of this other fight here. It was a women's flyweight division. It was Roxanne Madari versus Macy Barber. And what I saw was poor Macy blew out her goddamn knee. And I know many of you have blown out knees before, but if you have, I'm sure y'all can relate to poor Macy. When you've got nothing to support yourself, you're pretty much a walking target. I think Roxanne definitely, I definitely know that Roxanne knew that there was a big problem, Roxanne, for whatever reason, decided to go light on her, though, which is something that I don't understand as a fighter, There's a little bit of respect factor, but, when your opponent is compromised and they can't move, you got to keep either attacking that goddamn leg, which I know a lot of people are going to say a savage thing to do, but that's part of the fight game, right? Just like when you see a fighter that's got a busted nose or he's got like a cut, right? What do? You keep attacking that cut, you keep attacking that nose, right? And you try and get the stoppage, right? You try and get that W any way that you can. I mean, like, she did ultimately get the decision win, you know what I mean? Because Barber couldn't really do much, but at the same time, too, like, why fight on the ground, right? Like, I would have just, at that point, become like a kickboxer and just kept throwing kicks to her other leg, you know what I mean? She didn't want to be such a pain in the ass, start throwing kicks to the other leg, you know what I mean? And then see exactly where it all goes, right? But this whole not finishing when you've pretty much got a lame duck in front of you, like, that reminds me of some old GSP shit, like when Josh Koscheck had that fucking broken orbital bone, and he just wouldn't finish him. He just kept fighting behind that jab, playing a little bit safe, and ultimately you get the dub, and you did what you need to do to win, but it wasn't like an impressive performance or anything, a woman who's got a record of 24-16, she's got lots of experience, but, you got to start making a name for yourself somewhere, right? And in my opinion, she should have turned this into like a kickboxing match and teed off on Barber. Even if she didn't have the skills to, be an elite level striker, well, guess what? That's your opportunity to get in there and try some new shit out. You know what I mean? Macy could not really stand and could not move, so she was just a standing fucking target right there, But, good on her as well, you know what I mean, for taking her into the ground, fighting her on the ground, and kind of dragging this fight out, Something to be said about that as well, right? Now, as we work our way into the main card here, we had a fight cancellation in the strawweight division. Claudia Gahara got canceled against Alexa Grasso. I'm not sure exactly what had happened, but I think Gahara had gotten injured or something like that. So, fortunately, we were unable to see that, but they got replaced by Brian Keller versus O'Day Osborne. And that was an okay scrap for like all of a minute until like Keller decided to take him to the ground and fucking choke him the fuck out. Keller is a beast when it comes to the ground game. His submissions are top notch. O'Day is a good striker. What I saw early from O'Day was that he's very calm in the pocket. However, as much as I love them strikers, 90% of fights go to the ground, right? So you need to get a ground game, and Osborne needs to start implementing a few things so that he can get further in his career. You just can't survive on strikes alone. It's good to have that ground game so you don't get submitted easily, and you've got the ability to get back up on your feet and use your favorite weapons. However, that was the second fight into the main card. That was at bantamweight. This card started off with a fight that I had thought was going to go either way. Well, not that it was going to go either way. I expected a really tough fight out of these two gentlemen. It was Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Anthony Showtime Pettis. Ferreira had been on quite the tear himself. His last loss was in 2015, so it's been a minute for him. But since then, all he's gone and do is knock people out, fucking submit people. Like, this kid just keeps getting better and better and better. As for Showtime Pettis, unfortunately, I feel like when I come to watching these Pettis fights, this is a guy that he's got tremendous ability, tremendous striking, tremendous ground game, but you just never know what version of Anthony Pettis you're going to get. It seemed that Diego was able to take him to the ground at will, and Pettis was able to get back up, but was really unable to do anything. As soon as the second round came out, Diego took him to the ground again and submitted him, right? I had predicted that Ferreira was going to win this fight. I'd also predicted Olenek was going to win. predicted Holly Holm was going to win, and I predicted Cerrone was going to win. Poor cowboy. Fuck, did I want to see that. However, like I said, Ferreira won. I expected him to. I kind of did expect the submission, but at the same time, too, I was hoping these two were going to scrap. I think this fight right here had the potential to be fight of the night, and unfortunately, it just disappointed. And at this point, I don't know if I want to see Pettis in the ring anymore, or even on the main card, to be honest. You know, it's he's got a big name, but for whatever reason, the success that he has had is never really translated over. You know, and I believe now this is 2 losses in a row for Pettis. Right, he lost against Diaz. Now he's got this loss against Ferreira. But, you know, if you look at Pettis in that Chiesa fight, like, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Like, yo, this guy has got some fucking skills, right? But, unfortunately, I think he's going to end up being like my boy Cowboy and, you know, just going to be a gatekeeper, you know what I mean, for these young bucks and kind of see exactly where they're at, you know what I mean? I don't like to see it, but these sports also need it, you know what I mean? Because, like I've mentioned before earlier here, this shit has got some levels, and you know, clearly you saw it in this fight. You know, as accomplished as Pettis is, he was just unable to do anything against Ferreira's ground game. You know, and it was smart. Ferreira fought a smart game. You know what I mean? Probably had the shittier hand skills between the two of them, and was looking to go and take him to the ground. Right. So, more props to Ferreira. Right. Ooh. So we've only got 2 more fights to talk about since we already opened up with Cowboy versus Cerrone. And this one was an interesting one. I thought maybe by chance Alexei was going to stand there and start trading with Maurice. But, you know, it would have been foolish because Maurice is a huge man, you know. And fucking in the heavyweight division, fucking someone who's 6'7". Whoo! He's got that reach. Lesky, I think he was just shy of fucking 6 feet, to be honest with you. Could have been 6 feet, but, I mean, when you're standing up to a giant of a man, anyone's going to look fucking tall, right? You know, even if he was like 6'3", 6'4", he's going to look small compared to a man that's 6'7", you know? But it almost looked like he had like fucking 8-inch reach or 8-inch height advantage on him. What I liked about this fight was that we got to see a kickboxer start utilizing some of his skill set that he is learning. You know what I mean? Maurice is primarily a kickboxer. He's just making his way on over to the whole MMA side of things, and he actually like attacked Alexei twice while they were on the ground with a couple of triangle choke attempts. You know. Wasn't really able to secure anything too threatening or anything like that. But, you know, it made Alexei think for a minute, you know. But let's just face it. Alexei is a fucking journeyman. I mean, like, fucking, he has got now. Oh, he's two fights shy. Or, I should say, he's 2 wins shy of being 60 wins in MMA, which is fucking phenomenal, right? You know, the dude just puts in work, right? You know, but they don't call him the boa constrictor for nothing, you know what I mean? He's obviously been in any of those situations time and time again, you know, and the guy who is just starting to learn versus a guy that, you know, has made it his business. You kind of had a feeling that this was going to end bad for Maurice if it went to the ground. Maurice's only chance to win this fight was to stand and hit him with a fucking kick to the head pretty much. But Alexei fucking managed to pull it off. He was gassed. He was tired. You know, both these big boys, you know, when you're that big, right, it takes a lot of oxygen to feed that body. And, you know, it got kind of like sloppy towards the second, you know, but he was able to finish him with the scarfold choke and, you know, secure that dub. Last but not least, we're going to talk Holly Holm. Now, this wasn't the most impressive victory. I know a lot of people were like booing while this fight was going on, which I kind of get from the normies, right? You know what I mean? God bless the normies. But for those that like are fans, like actual fight fans, you know, she fought a good game. You know, I didn't like seeing the ref being fucking bullied by the crowd to break it up. You know, in my opinion, you know, if you get pinned up against the fence, figure it out. Why'd you get pinned? Obviously, you've got a hole in your game. You know what I mean? You get it. It's your job to get the fuck off the fence. It's not the job of the referee to stop that. You know, fucking this victory that Holly had reminded me of old school Randy Couture. You know, and I thought she fought a great game. You know, I mean, we all know that Holly is an elite level striker. You know, and that she's like still young in her MMA career, you know. But she's just coming off that loss to Amanda Nunes, right? She's on the wrong side of 30. She's very close to 38. Looks phenomenal for her age. But, you know, she's trying to get herself back into the mix, right? And the last time that we had saw Holly get knocked out by Amanda, we even had Dana White kind of hinting that, like, maybe she should start looking for retirement and whatnot, which I was kind of flabbergasted by that comment, but you know, it was nice to see her get back into that winning column. She'll probably have another scrap or two before she'll compete for a title again, but hopefully she can get a fight soon here. As for Raquel Pennington, we all know she's as tough as nails, but like I said, was unable to do anything with Holly. This was the second time that they've both fought. And, you know, somebody who's supposed to have the more experience just really didn't show it, you know. Raquel was just unable, really had no answer, you know, and until the referee pulled them apart, you know, like that was really her only breathing space, to be honest with you. Little lackluster, but it is what it is, you know, and sometimes you just got to get that W so you can move on to bigger and better things, you know. I guess Holly didn't want to give Raquel the chance to take her down on the ground because Holly respects Raquel's ground and pound game, right? And, you know, that is where Raquel shines. Unfortunately, she just couldn't do anything with the much taller Holly, pinning her and holding her against the cage. But like I says, I don't mind because, like, you know, Randy Couture has won championships doing that shit, you know what I mean? And then, you know, like, Chuck Liddell was able to figure him out, you know, you got to pop him out and throw him them short fucking looping crosses, right? But yeah, fucking disappointed for this, for the main fight, you know, well, like I had said earlier, you know, just heartbroken, a little butthurt that Cowboy lost, but c'est la vie, it is what it is the fight game. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for lending me an ear. It's been fun breaking these down with you and going over it all. Catch me again sometime soon. I think we've got Bellator this weekend, so I might be doing another fight prediction. As for my fight predictions, well, we had one fight cancellation, but so far, I would say, well, I did call the Ferreira fight. Ferreira was going to win. I did say Lexi was going to win. I did say Holly was going to win. So I guess I am 3-1 to start the new year off. All right, folks. Thank you so much for chilling with me. And again, I'm your host, Jeff Patello. And thank you for stopping on in. If you guys like what I got going on here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And throw a like, leave a comment below. Peace. Much love.